Three, two, one. We are back. Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another live stream. Welcome back to another episode. Yesterday we had another bearish weekly close. So I thought I would give you guys an update on Bitcoin. And this is actually something that we spoke about. I don't know how many of you guys watched one of my recent stream, one of my recent Bitcoin update, and I told you that we were more likely, over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we were more likely to close below this weekly candle right here, basically below $70,000. So we just did that. Our first week, we just closed below $70,000. And I think, we got about maybe 2-3 more weekly close below $70,000 before we flash down in the $50,000 range. We also have, a very bearish signal that we haven't seen, since 2022. And it's not looking good for the bulls. It's not looking good if you are someone who still has the belief that we are still in a bull market. It's not good if you still with the belief that $60,000 was the bottom of the crash. So it should be a nice live stream today. I should be able to provide tons of value to you guys. If you're new to the channel, of course, I am going to ask you to hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, and if you have some stuff that you would like me to talk about, put them in the chat, guys. Put them in the chat. But once again, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having an amazing Monday. Happy President's Day. Today's President's Day. So, take some time to appreciate those who have served, this country, and those who will serve in the future, right? Future presidents of the U.S. So appreciate them, guys. It's a beautiful country, all right? So anyways, yeah, look, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are having an amazing Monday. And let's talk about the cryptocurrency market. Let's talk about whatever that you guys are interested in, altcoins. Surprisingly, we had some big movers, in the last 48 hours. Zcash, what a surprise. I didn't think Zcash was going anywhere around $300. But oh my God, not only did we go to 300, I think we traded somewhere around, $330. But I do think, the rally is over. And I think this is the beginning of, back in the $100 range. So we will get some time to talk about Zcash. But let me talk about Bitcoin, though. I want to start with Bitcoin because this is not this is not looking good right here. All right, let me start with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin had a bearish weekly close a few weeks ago. Not a few weeks ago. Last week, when we had this weekly close at $70,000. What I say to you guys, and I'm sure you probably look, if you go through these updates right here, I'm sure it's gotta be one of these videos. But when we had this weekly close, what I say to you guys was that we are more likely to have, 2 to 3 weekly close below $70,000 and above $60,000. So I thought we were more likely to get, the following 2 to 3 weeks to close somewhere in this range right here. And my belief is that, this is a repeat of I don't know how many of you guys were here in 2022. I believe this is a repeat of this right here, guys. I think this is a repeat of May of 2022, when the price of Bitcoin crashed from 35,000 to $25,000, and then the following 4 weekly close was between $25,000 and $3,100 and $31,000. So I think this is a repeat of this. When I think about this right here, to me, I kind of basically see the same thing playing out all over again. If I'm looking at this current weekly, look, I think we're gonna close between $70,000 and $60,000. I don't think we're gonna close this week above $70,000. I also don't think we're gonna close below $60,000. So if you go back, look, I'm even happy to make an argument that we're more likely to close below. Let me see, what was the weekly close? I actually think we're more likely to close below $68,000. Like honestly, guys, look, it wouldn't surprise me if we close this week, below 68,000. Like we could potentially end up around 65,000, 66,000, 60. Like I don't know, all right, but below 70,000, I think that is exactly where we close, and it wouldn't surprise me, if we close below $68,000. So we are going to be here for a while, and this is why, I put this out there the last couple of days that $60,000 to $72,000 for weeks, because that is basically exactly what I'm looking at. And after this week, that's already weeks, right? Remember, it's weeks, after this week. The first week, we're between $60,000, $70,000. This is the second week. I think we are going to be between $60,000 and $70,000. So that is weeks already. And I think, you're looking at 2 to 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks. That gives us a nice daily consolidation. And then we flash down in the $50,000 range. So if you're bullish on Bitcoin right here, I think you need to reevaluate your analysis. I think you need to go back and you really, really need to look at the chart. Like there is nothing, when you look at this weekly, there is absolutely nothing to be bullish about. There is nothing to be bullish about. And when you think about the RSI, weekly RSI, when you think about weekly MACD, guys, I mean, this is the look of our weekly MACD. The bears are in full control of this market. All right, like this is an extremely, extremely bearish market. Look at what you have right here when you look at the histogram. You have red, 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 red. This is the momentum indicator, guys. Do you see a decrease in momentum or an increase? I see an increase in momentum because we continue to get, lower lows. All right. You see, the histogram is getting bigger or taller and taller. All right. When you start to see a decrease, maybe you can make some noise that the lows are potentially in. But yeah, this does not look good. When you go to the RSI on the weekly, yes, we are extremely oversold. But oversold in the weekly, is not a sign of strength, guys. This is a sign of weakness. Like total weakness right here is exactly what you guys are looking at. If RSI was overbought, that is a sign of strength. So, yeah, look, I'm looking at this market. I'm looking at this market from a weekly basis. I'm looking at the performance, week after week. It's not getting any better. All right. It is not getting any better. It is getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm telling you guys right now, I mean, the bears are in full control of this market. I mean, they're just laughing at the bulls right now. Any bull out there who think this is a bullish Bitcoin, I mean, these guys are just laughing at you. The other day, I saw something from Coinbase. I think Brian Armstrong, he released a statement. I don't know if it's a statement or he was being interviewed, and he said that retail is accumulating Bitcoin on Coinbase. But guys, it doesn't matter, man. Oh, I think I reposted. So, yeah, I don't know if it was through an interview or this is Brian Armstrong. So retail has diamond hands. They're buying the dip. Of course, he's the owner of Coinbase, so he's able to see, who's buying and who's selling. But the truth is, guys, it doesn't matter if retail is buying the dip. As long as you have more sellers than buyers, we are going to continue to dump. It's all about supply and demand, guys. And it's about, how many are actually buying and how many are actually selling. And I can tell you right now, just by looking at this setup right here, more people are dumping Bitcoin. All right. We don't have more buyers. If we have more buyers, that is going to be reflected in the price. All right. Price is going to go up. We are going to have a market that is in an uptrend. In bull markets, we have more buyers. In bear markets, we have more sellers. So, when I see things like this, it's a lot easier to be misled, if you're not doing your own research. In my opinion, like, I don't care how many retail is accumulating Bitcoin at the current price. Yeah, we are going lower until you have more buyers step in. Michael Saylor, all right? How much Bitcoin has Michael Saylor accumulated in the last couple months, guys? Has that changed the fact that we continue to dump? Michael Saylor bought Bitcoin in the $90,000 range. Bitcoin crashed to $60,000. Michael Saylor purchased more Bitcoin in the $80,000 range. We still crashed to $60,000. Michael Saylor, I think he recently bought more Bitcoin. I believe a couple $1 million worth, if not hundreds of $1 million worth of Bitcoin. Once again, we're still dump. Right? So, when you see statements like this, you have to be careful. This is not a signal. This is not a signal for you to go out and buy the dip. All right. As long as you have more sellers, as long as more people are dumping Bitcoin, price will continue to go down. And right now, this is exactly what we have, guys. Like, you can clearly see, in things like the MACD indicator, the momentum indicator, like, you can clearly see the market is extremely, extremely bearish. And when you look at this last weekly close, again, like, this is a sign of weakness right here. This is not a sign of strength. This is not a sign of a market that is about to reverse to the upside. Absolutely not. This is going to take some time. And this is why, I continue to give you guys, a warning that you have to be careful. Don't try to be a hero because we are going to be here for some time. So if I'm looking at Bitcoin, there's really not much to talk about in terms of the weekly setup. We are in a very clear downtrend. Look, new updates on the weekly time frame is actually not needed. All right, we will evaluate Bitcoin once we get to a place where it looks like, something is actually happening. Right now, our expectation and your expectation, guys, I'm telling you right now, don't allow anyone to change your opinion. Right now, your expectation should be that Bitcoin will continue to go down on a weekly basis. All right. You need to avoid what is taking place on a daily basis and just focus on weekly. All right. Look at the price of Bitcoin at the end of every Sunday. All right. When you look at the price of Bitcoin, are we higher than we opened the previous Sunday or are we lower? So until, we are proven otherwise, our expectation, all right, your number one your number one expectation should be that we are going to continue down until the current trend on the weekly and monthly is reversed to the upside. So I think I've done a great job keeping you guys updates on this market. I think I've done a great job, staying on the trend of the market. Guys, I became bearish the moment we lost $98,000. And you guys, now once, all right, now once have I flipped my bias. My bias on this market is a bearish one. In the short term, if we are going to see a relief rally, I am going to say, guys, in the short term, the price may go up, just like I did when Bitcoin went from $80,000 to $96,000. You guys may remember, I was bullish here. I was very bullish, and even right here, guys, I didn't turn bullish until we broke above $87,000. And if you guys, some of you guys who are new here, if you don't believe me, then I want you to come and check it out. All right, I was predicting $96,000 the moment the price of Bitcoin broke above 87,000. But since losing $98,000, my bias on this market has always been that we are bearish. Right now, one time, guys, have I changed my bias, and this should continue exactly like this until this downtrend is over. Not just on the daily, guys. I'm talking about weekly and monthly. And if you guys are listening to any person that's analyzing this market, if they are constantly changing, if they're constantly, flip-flopping, like if every day it's, a new price outlook, I'm talking directional wise, now, hey, BTC might go to 89,000. We might go to 75. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. What I mean is by, directionally, are they saying this is a market that is trending up or a market that's trending down? If they're constantly flip-flopping, you need to find someone else to listen to. And that person, I believe, is exactly right here. On a weekly time frame, on a weekly basis, this is not a market that is going to turn bullish anytime soon, unless out of nowhere we get a V-shaped recovery. And even if we do get a V-shaped recovery, the only way we go bullish, price of Bitcoin will need to break above $98,000. So if you don't see above $98,000, I'm telling you right now, you have a market, you have a Bitcoin that is in a long-term downtrend. And look, you can predict whatever price that you like. You can predict 20,000, you can predict 10,000, you can predict 5,000. I don't care. What I care about is your primary outlook is bearish. And if that is the case, then you are doing it right. So that is the update, based on this bearish weekly close we got that I wanted to give you guys. What I also want to talk about today is this one indicator. Well, it's not one indicator, actually. I want to share with you guys something. This is I'm calling it a signal, but it's really not a signal. It's just what's happening in the chart. We haven't seen this since 2022. And if you are a bull, if you are someone who still with the belief that Bitcoin is in a bull market and Bitcoin is bottoming out at $60,000, chat, I'm telling you right now, look away, because you're not going to like this. You are not going to like this at all. So what exactly am I talking about? This is exactly what am I talking about. So I want to show you guys one of my reasons why I believe that this is a market that is now, bears are 100%, or should I say even 1,000%, full in control of this market. Like the bears are in full control of this market, guys. The way I'm looking at this is that you gotta have to be patient. If you still Bitcoin, if you think Bitcoin is bullish, you're gonna have to be patient for a very, very long time. So what exactly am I talking about? Well, chat, I'm talking about what these two moving averages are currently doing right now. The 21 weekly moving average recently, all right, crossed below the 50 weekly. And I told you guys that that was a death cross. And that was something, if you a bull, you look, this is something that you do not want to see. Trust me, guys. Sometimes, these death crosses turns out to be fake outs. But on the weekly, even when you do get fake outs, like you don't get many of them. You might get just one. You don't normally get two or three. So I'm not focusing on the death cross though. What I want to show you guys is what the two moving averages are doing right now. You see when the momentum is very strong, all right, the two EMAs are going to get away from each other. So when you look at the 21 EMA, which is this blue line, you can clearly see it is getting away from, the 50. This is a sign of momentum. And because the momentum is to the downside, I'm telling you right now, guys, right? I am telling you right now, you do not want to see this right here. If you go back to the last bear market, it's exactly the same thing that we saw, once we had this death cross right here, all right, around April of 2022. Notice how, the gap between the two EMAs just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you look at the price, guys, we were dumping, right? Price of Bitcoin was dumping, and we were not just dumping, man. Like this was the acceleration to the downside. And this is why, I said to you guys recently, I don't see a weekly relief rally anytime soon. I see the price of Bitcoin continuing all the way down in the 50s, before we get a weekly rally. If you think BTC is going to push up and we're going to see a bullish Bitcoin for probably a couple weeks, chat, it's not right now, man. Right? It is not right now. Yes, we are going to get a relief rally on the weekly, but probably when the price of Bitcoin is somewhere in the low $50,000 range. I think more likely from here, we get the relief rally that you guys are asking for. But right now, absolutely not. Well, maybe not absolutely not because there's no certainty, in TA. But you do not want to see this. You do not want to see this. The bigger the gap, the bigger the drop. All right, the bigger the gap, the more bearish the market is. And when I'm not just looking at that, I'm looking at the MACD right here, guys. This is the MACD momentum histogram. You can clearly see, all right, strength is with the bears. The bears are in full control of this market. All right. I do not see a sign of weakness when I look at this weekly MACD right here. All right, there is not a sign of weakness, guys. This is a sign of strength. So my expectation is that this is going to continue on for the next couple of months. And the only way for Bitcoin to turn bullish, let me show you exactly what's going to take place on the weekly. We are going to get weekly bullish divergence. So if you go back to the last bull market, this is exactly what we are going to get. All right. As the MACD is trending back up, because we're going to get that sometimes, over the next couple of weeks or months. As the MACD is trending up, that is going to be the final dump in the price of Bitcoin. So if you come back right here, guys, let me put a vertical line. If I put a vertical line right here, I'm going to put a vertical line right here. So here we had a weekly relief rally. Actually, I'm going to talk about this because I think this is exactly what's coming. So back in those days, back in July of 2022, the weekly MACD gave us what many of you guys call a buy signal, but this is not a buy signal. I'm going to be honest with you guys. This is not a buy signal right here, guys. You don't want this. But when we had this signal right here, let's call it a buy signal. Bitcoin was within its weekly relief rally, okay? But notice how, despite the so-called buy signal, we continue to dump, and we actually dumped it from $25,000 to around $15,000, and this was a 38% dump. So I believe this is exactly where you are more likely to see over the next couple of weeks. So let me explain that to you. What I think is about to happen is, once this consolidation on the daily is over. Now, I don't want to go to the daily. Let me stay with the weekly. But once this consolidation on the daily is over, or at least almost over, the weekly MACD, all right, is going to cross, all right, is going to cross over, going back to that buy signal. It's going to give you the so-called buy signal. That is not a signal to, to jump into Bitcoin. No, what that is more likely to do is, it is more likely to mark, probably almost the top of, or take place, during the weekly relief rally, meaning the price of Bitcoin is already going to be somewhere in the $50,000 range and probably rising. And then once we start to trend up, once the weekly MACD is trending up, we are going to get the final drop. So think about this, chat. If Bitcoin comes down into the $50,000 range, I'm kind of going where I didn't really want to be, but that's okay. If BTC comes here, I think somewhere around here is where we get the relief rally. And then we get a relief. All right, this is the relief right here, guys. I don't know where this is going to take us, but let's just say bring us back to around, let's call it 65,000, or let's call it 70,000. Who cares, right? When this is happening, we are going to start to see a bullish weekly divergency on the MACD. So the MACD will be doing this. By the time, we are very close to the relief rally being over. Once we start to get this on the MACD, I think the top of the rally is going to be coming in, and then we are going to get the final flash. So the final flash could take us from, let's go with 65,000, and I'm going to go to my $39,000 target. So $39,000 target, this is exactly what we are predicting. That is a 37% dump. All right. While this is rising, the price of Bitcoin is going to do what, guys? It is going to dump. Now, once the MACD is very closer to the zero line, just like back here, this is when, all right, the low of the bear market is going to come in. So if we look at this right here, the low of the bear market is going to come in once the weekly MACD is kind of very close to, the zero line. And then, we're going to start breaking the structures of this bear market. So something that looks, I don't know if you guys are following this. This is the final crash. And then we are going to start doing this. While this is all happening, the RSI is going to do exactly what the MACD is going to be doing. So the RSI is also going to give us bullish divergence. And this is why, guys, this is why I don't care about oversold RSI. I think if you are using oversold RSI as a means for you to jump into a position, I think you're making a very big mistake. I think you should wait until RSI does something like this. Once the RSI gives you something like this, what I would say to you is, look to build a position, maybe somewhere around, 40, RSI in the 40s, or wait until the RSI pulls back again, and then build a position when the RSI gives you a pullback with a higher low, or even a lower, even like a lower low. All right, it's perfectly fine, but at least you have some bullish divergences. All right, so in my opinion, you want to be a buyer, somewhere around RSI looking like this. All right, that will give you a price that is down here. So RSI, a little higher, price is going to be a little lower. The MACD is going to be a little higher, price is going to be a little lower. So I think that's when you should start, looking for entries. What I will say though is this: look, if you see BTC around 45,000, you should start building a position, or even below 50,000. I believe building a position is the right thing to do because waiting for the bottom, even though I'm predicting $39,000, I think waiting for a bottom to come in, I don't think that's the right approach because 39,000, any of the bottom that anyone out there is predicting, none of that is promise, right? So, but you can start dollar cost average, somewhere around here, or you wait for the actual bottom to be in, and then once you start breaking the structures to the upside, then you start building a position. So to me, that is pretty much what I'm kind of thinking about in my approach to this market. Um, Look, I kind of got away from the main topic of what I really wanted to drive forward, but what I wanted to drive forward was really is the bears are in full control of this market. Right? This wasn't so much about this is where the bottom is going to be. This is what Bitcoin is. This is how Bitcoin is gonna bottom. This is more towards, hey guys, you got these two EMAs looking like this. Like this is not something that you want to see. If you bullish on Bitcoin, and if you think 60,000 was the bottom of the drop, like this looks really bad. When you look at momentum indicators, this looks really, really bad. When you look at the RSI, this looks really, really bad. In the short term, I mean, short term is short term, guys. Like who knows what Bitcoin does in the short term. And what I've said in the past, and I've continued to say this, bear market rallies, especially when it comes to the altcoin market, they are going to rip your face off. We just saw Zcash go from $180 to $330. I'll be lying to you if I say I would have predicted Zcash going from 180 to 330. Like I would absolutely be lying to you. So in the short term, you have to try to ignore, what is taking place and focus on the bigger picture. So BTC is bearish. This is not something that you want to see if you're bullish on Bitcoin. And because of all these signals, because of how the setup looks like, my primary bias continues to be, it's not just bearish, very, very bearish. All right. Once again, I appreciate you guys for watching. If you're watching the live stream, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, of course, if you're new here. I do want to say a big thank you. I think we just crossed 280 subscribers, so we are very, very close to 300 subscribers. Remember, the goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers, guys. The goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers as quickly as we can. So if you appreciate the content, if you think there's value right here, hit the subscribe, hit the like, and let's keep going. Can we go to 90? No, I don't think BTC goes to 90K. I think 90K is way, way too far. 90K? No, absolutely not, man. Look, there's no certainty in TA, but 90,000, yeah, absolutely not. I'll be very shocked. Like, I'll be very, very shocked if we get 90,000. I don't think we get 90,000 in 2026. I think 90,000 is over with. Yes, sir. We're back here. Layer 0. Yeah, you gotta give me the ticker symbol. If you give me a ticker symbol, we'll look at layer 0. Anyways, but what I'm also going to start doing, and I think this might provide even more value. I'm going to start looking at the short term as well, guys. So we'll still keep our main focus on the bigger picture, but I'm going to start analyzing, the 5 minutes, the 2 minutes, because I think in the short term, because when you look at weekly and you look at monthly, like you really have to wait for weeks and potentially months for you to get new information. So instead of me kind of repeating myself, over and over again, I'm going to start looking at these lower time frames. That way I can also provide value in real time, so you guys don't have to hear me repeat myself, kind of over and over again. But I do want to give you a heads up. This is a big disclaimer. None of my short-term price analysis is going to be should be taken as financial advice. Like, this is not, hey, this is the setup, go and take a trade. No, this is just me giving you guys my opinion, on what could potentially happen in, maybe in the next 1-2 days, or maybe just in the next couple hours. So let me talk about, should we continue with Bitcoin, or should I just, all right, let me talk about Bitcoin, all right, in the short term, and then I'm going to jump into altcoins. So, first and foremost, when you go to the week, to the daily, like, these are the two clear levels. And then I'm also going to point out right here, all right, $62,700, which is the body of, these two candles right here. So this was the close, this was the open for this massive bounce. So if we go down to like the 5 minutes, I'm going to show you guys what I'm kind of, no, let me go to the 15 minutes. All right, so if you come to the 15 minutes, guys, like, I'm looking at this right now, and this to me looks very, very clear. So here you have this impulse move from around, I'm just going to go from 62,000. This is the wick right here. From 62,000, all the way up to 72. So very clear. This is the top of the move. So if I'm looking at this, let me get rid of this. If I'm looking at this, to me, this is a Bitcoin that is in the process of pulling all the way back to 62,000 and potentially 60,000. And the reason is because once we finally put in the top right here, we have struggled to, break above $72,000. Even this move right here, like, this is nothing but a lower high. All right. So I am looking at this. All right. And this to me does not look bullish. And I think what you probably get from here is a continuation of this downtrend. So I actually see $62,000 Bitcoin, just give it a couple of days. Like, I see $62,000 BTC. Of course, you're going to have to take out this mid-range of 65,000 that has now become a support. So in the short term, this is what I see right here. I don't think we break above $72,000 in the short term. I think we have tried it and we have failed. So it's only right we revisit the low $60,000 range. And 62 will be my target. If we overshoot, then I'm looking at $60,000. I don't think we go below 60,000. So you want to be a buyer right here. I would say you want to be a buyer right here. And then you want to take profits anywhere around $70,000. To me, this is the only way to trade Bitcoin in the short term. This is your profit taking area. This is your entry right here. Anything above 72,000, I think you want to be careful. You're probably looking at, one of those fake outs where, price overshoots and then we come back in the range. Anything below 60,000, I think you wait for a pullback into the range, and then you try to get back into a position again until this is broken and retested and rejected. This is the bottom of the range. Until this is broken, retested and supported, this is the top of the range. So in the short term, that will be my analysis on Bitcoin. At 68,000, you shouldn't do anything. Anything around 62,000, you start looking for longs. Anything around $72,000, you start looking for shorts. So that will be my, analysis on BTC, guys. Let's talk about altcoins though, because yeah, most of these alts, man, is just it's crazy. All right, so looking at altcoins, I kind of want to look at them from the same lens, short-term stuff. If I'm looking at Solana, the bigger picture, of course, guys, Solana is very bearish. I won't change my mind on that. This is a very key level, $78. And then you got the wick right here, 68. And to me, this looks like the top of the range. 89, let's call it $90. And then, of course, yeah, we're just going to stick with that. So if we go down to the 15 minutes, 15 right here, $84, I wouldn't do anything. Absolutely not. Remember, this is the wick right here. This is the body of the daily close. So it makes sense that we find the support right here, and then it went up again. If Solana comes back to 77, I think here you can try to look for some longs to take it back to 90. You lose 77, 76, then you're looking at a retest of 68. What I would say is at $68, you're looking for longs with a stop loss just right below 68. All right. Anywhere around here, you also try to look for longs, or you can look for shorts. So longs, shorts, only shorts right here, only longs right here. Anything in between, like, you shouldn't do anything. At $84, absolutely shouldn't do anything. But right here, you're looking at a 15% move. So this is why, somewhere down here, it kind of makes sense to, to take on some risk. And anything down here, the risk makes even more sense because you're looking at a potential 30% jump. So that's what I would be looking at, if I was looking at Solana. But if I'm looking at this, I do believe the top is in. And I think this is basically on its way down to $77. Why do I know this? Well, once again, you look at the top. We got a pullback. We go back up. We break above the top. But turns out, there was nothing in there. Ended up with a pullback. And then, if you look at the structure of this pullback, all you have is lower lows and lower highs. And not only that, guys, we have also lost this major support right here. All right. So losing $84 was not something that you wanted to see if you were long in Solana. And this right here, it wouldn't change my mind unless price was to break above 86. So I think this is exactly what we call a, coming back to put in a lower high. And I think we're going to roll over. And we're going to take out 82. And we're going to push all the way down in the 70s. That will be, my outlook on Solana in the short term. I don't want to go down to, do we want to do the 2 minutes? But if you look at the 2 minutes anyways, I mean, again, basically the same thing. Lower lows, lower highs. Right here, tried to break out. Wasn't very successful. Ended up with this continuation of this drop right here. So I'll definitely be looking at this $77 target. In fact, look, if we put in a lower high right here, I think this could be a trade where if you jump into shorts around 83, I would say stop loss above 86. That's a 4% loss. And I'll be looking at a target of 77. Now, I don't like a trade like this. To me, it doesn't really make any sense. Risking $1 to make 2. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of that. I like it 3, 4 if I'm risking $1. But yeah, this is why I don't even like participating in in short-term stuff like this. I do think though, if we do come back to 77, probably we lose the support right here. And you're looking at a crash all the way down into all the way down to around 68. I could see that playing out. And if that is the aim, hold on, am I doing this right? If that is the aim, no. Stop loss right here is what I meant. If that is the aim of the trade, say if you're jumping right here, 4% risk, but you aiming towards 68, I think this is a much better trade. All right, very risky. Well, higher target, less risk compared to the profits. This to me looks really good. So that would be my outlook on Solana. Anyways, really hard to tell. Getting support out the golden pocket of this recent impulse. Excuse me, guys. Could be a double 1-2 starting wave 3 of wave 3. Are you talking about Solana, Bitcoin, or something else? Excuse me. Anyways, let's look something else. Oh, Zcash. Let me talk about Zcash. Zcash recent move. I mean, I was very surprised, to be very honest with you guys. And the reason I didn't see this coming, I was just looking at weekly and dailies. So when this happened, I was like, oh my gosh, the setup was actually there. If you go down to like the 15 minutes, even the 5 minutes. But anyways, let's talk about Zcash. Look, I'm going to say I do believe, the rally is over. I think we're going back into, $187. But, I mean, even worse this time, we are, like, honestly, guys, I see maybe not right now. You got to have to be a little bit more patient. And I guess, look, the way I'm looking at Zcash right now is kind of interesting. I guess I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, like, is this a Zcash weekly relief rally where, we might even push all the way up into the $400 range. And then, once the top is in, we get the crash all the way down to, $76. Because if I'm looking at, and the reason I'm kind of asking is because we already got to $180. You guys may remember when we were somewhere around $400, $444. I predicted that Zcash is going down to around $180 to $230. So we got there. So if I'm looking at this, to me, I'm now wondering, do we get the weekly relief rally? And this is why I'd rather just stay on the sideline, because trying to trade these rallies, man, it's extremely difficult. So, but the question I'm asking is, are we actually getting the weekly relief rally? And let's just say we push all the way up into the $400 range. And then this is where the top is. Now, this is a very big move, but guys, bear market rallies, I mean, you get exactly this. Like, this is like a 100 and plus. So if we get like a move like this, and then we put in a weekly lower high, and then, the next pullback brings us down, we take out $180, and then we dump all the way down to, $76. So to me, that's the question I have right now. Or the other thing is, do we crash all the way down to like, 85, and then we get the weekly relief rally, push all the way up to around $225, $250. And then we put in a weekly lower high, and then we crash all the way down to, $30 to $70. Like, those are some of the things that I'm kind of thinking about. And, it's very hard, right? It's very hard to know which is exactly happening. So if you go down to like the 4 hour, all right, if I'm looking at this 4 hour right here, this is a Zcash that has now established a really nice uptrend on the 4 hour. This is a Zcash, that has now established a really nice uptrend. And I'm looking at this right now. If we can stay above, I'm looking at this 220, $220 support. I'm looking at this, basically 220, 230. If we can stay above this, then I could see us push all the way back towards $400. Because if this can come back down, give us a higher low, maybe right here, then I could see a move all the way up to, the $400 range. So, look, I'm kind of wondering right now. I'm not really sure, if this is the weekly bear rally that, we are going to get, because this won't be a straight line down to the bear market lows. There's going to be times when the market is green. There's going to be times when the market is bullish inside of this bear market. But it's just, it's very hard to know. Like, is it right now? Is it later? It's kind of hard, right? It's kind of hard to know, guys. No way I'm playing any of these crypto markets right now. It's extremely risky. Too risky. Thanks for the technical analysis. Absolutely. Yeah, look, even me, guys, I'm on the sideline. Right? I'm on the sideline. I guess I'm just analyzing it for those who are interested. For those of you guys who are interested, I'm just analyzing it for you. But if we are going to be honest, and if we are going to be real, like, if we're not moon boys, and if we're not reacting every time price is green, just staying on the sideline is honestly the smartest thing to do right now. Yes, there's going to be, 200% relief rallies. But guys, those are extremely, extremely difficult to capture. And if you do catch one, most of the time, you probably 10 trades in a loss, and then you might catch one good trade. So if you're not very strategic with your risk management, then I think you could do some real damage to your portfolio. So I don't know about you guys, but I like my peace of mind. I like to know that, not having a trade is having a trade, and staying on the sideline, most of the time is actually the right thing to do. I'm not mad the Zcash goes from $180 to $300. Like, I'm not mad that I didn't catch this, because, you jump in, you get taken out, you jump in, you get liquidated. Like, how many times can you afford to get liquidated before you actually make something? So anyways, yeah, you gotta be careful out there, guys. ZRO, zero layer. USD, let me see. So I guess this is the one right here. Yeah, this one look, personally I wouldn't touch it. This looks really bad. Look, I'm on the monthly. Look at the monthly. I'm on the weekly. Like, this is not. Does this look like bullish divergences? Probably. Right. Interesting though. But it's been diverging since what? Since March of 2025. Yeah. Look, I wouldn't touch it. Do we have something with more data? I want data. Any of you guys who's messing with altcoins, you guys are very brave, man. Yeah, it's got some bullish divergency on the weekly. This looks like a breakout. That's a weekly. Let's go to the daily. Yeah. I will wait for this pullback. I will wait for this pullback to, because look, the way I'm looking at this is your breakout. This is your retest. This should have been a continuation. But then instead, we ended up with this rejection. We ended up getting rejected right here. And then look at where we are right now. So I will wait for this pullback. This is on the daily, of course. Watch $1.37. If we go below that, then this becomes, nothing but a lower low. And of course you have, 116. I will wait for this to kind of be over. Because right now, like, this chart is kind of hard to read. When I go to the weekly, I see bullish divergency, but you're looking at bullish divergencies from June 2025. Like, we in 2026. Like, how long has this thing been diverging? It's the question I'm asking. And I don't think the weakness of the overall cryptocurrency market, I don't think that's helping. Yeah, wait and see what this. If I'm on the 4 hour, this is a 4 hour right here. This is fine as long as price is above, 137. Like, this is definitely fine. I need to see a bounce. If you can get a bounce, I think makes sense to jump into a position, and you'll be looking, 250, 260. Yeah, but waiting for this to be over, I think, is the right thing to do. Yeah, it's kind of hard to read this chart. Not buying unless we are over the yeah, 100% agree. Gotta be up. I don't know if you are talking about this project right here or BTC. Yeah, wait until the 200 is a very good filter. In terms of bulls and bears. You don't want to touch this thing below the 200. It's a disaster. But I do like what it has been trying to do on the daily. Like, this is breaking structures right here. We took out the last lower high. Went up, pull back, a higher low right here. I don't like the fact that we broke above this high. Well, I mean, I don't have to like anything. But anyway, we broke above this high. I don't like this daily close right here. So I would like to see what we end up with this pullback right here. If we can put in a weekly, not a weekly, a daily lower high, higher low, or even a double bottom, that could give us, more data and something that we can go off of. But right now it's just, it's basically a waiting game. If it breaks above the 200 EMA again, I think it's game on, and you could start look at some of these higher targets. But yeah, but the cryptocurrency market, you guys, you gotta be careful. You really, really got to be careful. Like if you are trying to do anything in this market, I think without proper risk management, you are playing a very, very risky game. And what I've said to you guys is that stay away from daily price action. Zoom out, guys. When you look at week, Chad, remember last week, a couple of times the market was kind of green, but look at the weekly close. Like this is a disaster. Right? And if you are looking for something that's more visual, just use the Heikin-Ashi candles. You go to the weekly, guys. The moment you realize you have more red than green, just walk away, man. Like you don't want any of this smoke right here. This is not ideally. Like you don't want to buy when the market looks like this. You look at the entire bear market, guys. This is where you should be a buyer right here. Be a buyer when the market is green. If you want to be a trend follower. This is bad right here. Look, you more likely, and I've said this to you guys, you are more likely to encounter more red weekly candles, monthly candles than green. You look at the monthly, guys. This is month 4. All right, red. And we're more likely to see this for the remainder of the bear market. Like we are more likely to continue like this, guys. Red, 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 until the bull market is over. So be careful out there, people. You gotta be careful. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like. Make sure you do all the stuff that the algorithm is asking. Liking, subscribing. What else? My mates invested. I'm waiting for the bottom and recovery. Learned a lot from you. Yeah, appreciate. Look, I gotta be honest with you guys. Altcoins, you got to be careful. In 2026, for majority of 2026, I wouldn't do anything in altcoins. There is going to be opportunities in the market. It's just not right now. And I don't think it's anytime soon. It's just not right now, and I don't think it's anytime soon. Let me see, 21 weekly. I'm looking at this. This is the 21 weekly. Yeah, this is like, I don't have too much data with this, so it's kind of hard to analyze the higher time frame without enough data. And look, man, I don't like these wicks. Wicks like this, to me, it looks like I don't want to say a pump and dump, but those are the kind of vibes I get whenever I see things like this. Yeah. And you guys, you got to be careful. You got to be careful out there, guys. I don't know if there's anything else worth talking about in regards to this market. And I don't know if... Hold on, let me see. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Wow, these guys, you gotta be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. Wow. Okay. Oh my gosh. All right, all right, all right. This guy, he bought a Pokemon card for $5.3 million. What is he worth right now? $20? Oh my gosh. Yo, Lee, I have to. I mean, look, guys, it's like, yo, X is just full of, honestly, it's laughable at this point. Like, you don't know how many people are out there shilling, a bunch of these meme coins and, Solanas and whatever else is out there. Like, I'm just laughing, and I'm like, I repost a bunch of those stuff. Like, this token right here, man, there's this one guy that is pushing the hell out of this token. I'm like, are you serious? Let me show you something, guys. Yeah, I think this is a guy right here. Assuming BTC holds this range low, I think we should finally see CRV reclaim lower. Yeah, who cares if it reclaims lower time frames? Chat. I'm gonna walk with you guys. I'm just gonna show you guys something right here. I'm gonna kind of walk through. Let's start with let's start with let's start with Solana, because this one is just, chat. Look, this right here looks really bad. Right? I don't have to tell you guys how bad it looks. Just look at it yourself, man. Like, this looks really, really bad. That's Solana, right? Take a look at Zcash, guys. This looks really, really bad. Like, really, really bad. And remember, we have a monthly close coming up. I think in the next, how many days? Within the next 12 days, right? Which is almost 2 weeks. We're having a monthly close. This looks bad. Take a look at Jasmine. This is Jasmine right here, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go to the logarithmic. That way it's more cleaner. Chat, look at this right here. This looks really, really bad. Like, really, really bad. Look at Dogecoin, guys. Look. Dogecoin looks really bad. Alright, like, Dogecoin looks really, really bad. Dogecoin is gonna have to look. If Dogecoin doesn't stay above like 5 cents, you could be looking at like honestly, guys. I mean, just look at this. Like, you could be looking at Dogecoin coming all the way back to these levels, talking about 0 something, 0 something. Like, this is how bad this is. Right? CRO. Look at CRO, guys. Look. You lose this support right here. You're looking at going back to around 4 cents. Right? And remember, this is not a prediction. I'm just showing you guys how bad these charts look like, man. This is track. You lose these lows right here around 25 cents, whatever. You're looking at a drop to 20, potentially 14 cents. Look at ZB right here, guys. You lose these levels. Well, we don't even have levels, to be honest. It's in a free fall right now. You're looking at a project that's about to come back to 0.0007. Look at XRP, guys. All right, XRP, we don't have any support to talk about because we already lost one. So if I'm looking at XRP, the only logic target is 50 cents. Let's take a look at XLM. XLM, we don't have any support. The only logic target right now is 9 cents. All right. So when I'm on Next and I see, people pushing these altcoins, like, honestly, I don't know whether to cry or laugh, if we're actually going to be honest. Because it's so bad out there. Like, it really, really is bad. And there's not too many people that actually want to talk about what this market actually looks like. Cause look, I can grow my account if I'm shilling a bunch of these altcoins every single day, guys. Right? If I'm shilling these coins every single day, and if I'm talking about, all season, I think I can go from however many followers I have to, probably thousands. Look at this right here, guys. All season 2026. All season 2025 was canceled. All season 2024 was canceled. All season 2026 right now. And soon, all season 2027. All right? I mean, look how bad this is. I mean, these are people with, this guy's got 2.1 million followers. Can you imagine? All season, loading. This person has got 35,000 followers. All right, there's another one right here. Over 100 followers. And there's this one. I remember this one right here. Oh my God, where is the chart? Is this the one? I think this is the one. I think this is the one. Is it? It could be. Probably yes, probably not. But anyways, there's one chart. I don't know exactly where it is. Somebody sent it to me. Not right now, but a couple of weeks ago. Oh my gosh, where is it? Anyways, does it even matter though? Does it matter? Probably not. Oh, he sold it for 16. Oh, that's crazy. $16 million. And he bought it for $5 million. That's nice. I saw something, but he's blocking people though, because he bought something. He bought this NFT for around, I think, like 200 and something $1,000, and it's now worth like not even $500. And he's blocking anyone that's reminding him of that purchase. Anyways, yo, chat, appreciate you guys. We just did an hour, 12 minutes. We'll do this again. Hopefully I'm providing value though. So for some of you who just tuned in, let me kind of just give you a summary of what I talked about just briefly before I get out of here. This is a Bitcoin weekly close. We got the weekly close yesterday. This is not looking good. All right. And I think this week we're going to close lower than $70,000. I think the following week we'll probably get exactly the same thing. I am interested in the daily right now. And what I'm kind of looking at is something that looks like this, where we consolidate here for a few weeks. All right. This consolidation is going to allow, my 21 and my weekly EMAs to get a little bit closer to the price. And then after that, we're going to dump into the $50,000 range. That's what I'm kind of thinking about. So the consolidation would basically allow, think about this, chat. 21 moving average probably comes around, the low 70s. We are currently around 88,000. That is way, way too far. The 50 weekly is at 93. So the 50 weekly comes into the low $80,000 range. And after that, we're going to dump into the $50,000 range. And we're going to get a weekly rally. So by the time we're going up, the EMAs are coming down. We probably top, I don't know, somewhere in the mid 60s, somewhere around 70,000. By that time, the EMAs should be closer to the low $60,000 range. And then we're going to have a final flash into the low 40s, potentially higher 30s, and that will be the end of the bear market. Time-wise, we are early in this bear market, guys. But price-wise, I think it is almost over. Because if you think about going from $67,000 to $39,000, you basically are talking about, another 40% dump. Yeah, basically a 40% drop. So percentage-wise, the bear market is almost over. But time-wise, we are months and months away from this to be over. So appreciate you guys, man. Hopefully you enjoyed the stream. I'll see you next time.